So I am very excited to welcome a guest who has been a previous client of mine, and we caught up about a month ago. And this woman was radiating, and I was like, I'm sorry, we need to be going on the podcast immediately. I would like to introduce you all to Melissa Haywood. Melissa is a case specialist slash consultant for the Department of Child Services. She has one lovely child, an 18-year-old son who recently made her an empty nester. As her son became an adult, Melissa found herself needing to find life outside of motherhood, which is something I deal with a lot with my clients here. And after her son graduated high school, she made a big move to a major city and is finding the life she put on hold while raising a child. She is very into group fitness. She loves reading for self-improvement and now is very into motorcycle adventures. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa. I'm so happy to have you.
Hi, thank you.
It was so interesting watching your journey. And you're one of those like quintessential, like best case scenarios, I feel like, where someone comes in and they're tentative. Like they're not sure about me, about what we're doing. I get it. They're a little bit like, I've tried all the things. I'm not sure. And as the 3 months progressed, I feel like I just watched you fully step into this like amazing version of who you are and turn your light on is all. It was like you became shiny. You were a flower that blossomed in the most beautiful way. So I would love to just start with a little bit of a backstory about, who you are a bit, where you're from, your story, maybe into motherhood a bit, how you got into doing what you're doing.
Sure. So I am from the Midwest. Let's see here. I have, like you said, an 18-year-old son. I got married when I was like 21, 22, had my son right away. And so I didn't really know adult life without him. So I focused on, raising him. I got divorced. I was married for 10 years. So I've been divorced for almost 19 years or 9 years now. And so I just kind of focused on taking care of him and getting him through high school and school and kind of well into his, adulthood and then kind of on his way. So I don't want to say that I neglected myself, but I definitely put myself on the back burner in regards to taking care of myself and, all types of wellness kind of stuff. So, raising him and, he was the priority and making sure that he was active and doing all of his things. And, I had never really been athletic. Even when I was younger, I didn't really play sports. I was more into like band and musically inclined things. And
that is actually shocking for me to hear.
Really?
Knowing you now.
Yeah. I didn't really play sports or anything like that. And so whenever I kind of dabbled a little bit in taking some fitness classes when I was still married, just to kind of lose that baby weight. And I had like postpartum depression that I really needed to get out of. And so, they're like, oh, well, exercise, it'll help you feel better. And so I kind of
was that helpful with the postpartum?
I don't really know. So it's kind of strange. I think the postpartum was not only having my son, but then I got like the birth control shot shortly thereafter, and my hormones were all out of whack.
Yeah.
And so because of that depression, there's a lot of memories I don't have. I can look at a picture and kind of tell you things, but there's a lot of memories that I don't have of my son being very young until I kind of got out of that depression and was on the right medications and going to therapy and that kind of stuff.
How long did the depression last?
Several years.
Oh, that is so hard. It's something we don't talk about enough because I know a lot of my clients have also struggled with it. And there doesn't always, it's getting better, but I feel like especially then, not a lot of great directives for women around that.
Right. Yeah. And I thought I was just unhappy with my marriage. And that was probably part of it, but it was definitely my hormones and, just different things needed to be regulated through medication and therapy before I could feel better. And then even when I did start to feel better, I was worried about coming off the medications. I didn't want to go back to who I was, when I was depressed. And so I kind of stayed on them a little longer than I probably should have. But then, eventually got off of them and, kind of finished up therapy. And
how was the process of coming off?
It wasn't bad, really. I
Good.
kind of, I talked to my doctor, and we weaned me off of them, and she said, you've been doing better, you've been feeling better, and I was like, yeah, but I'm very scared of going
Yeah.
back to who I was
Hmm.
when I did have depression, and it's funny because people didn't see it. My family didn't really see it at the time.
Hmm.
My husband at the time saw it. He got the brunt of it.
Hmm.
And I did. I just thought it was him. I thought he was the problem and that I was
Hmm.
okay and I don't need therapy and I don't need medication. And, but obviously come to realize I did. And so, yeah, I mean, we worked together and came off the medications and, kind of got out of therapy after I was feeling better. I didn't really have much to talk about. And, with the increase in energy levels and feeling better, I kind of went back into group fitness and
And how
kind of
old were you around this time?
this would have been about 6 years ago.
Hmm.
So I'm mid 30s.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, yeah, I just kind of dabbled back into what I had done previously. And I hadn't really, I'd done it several years before, but wasn't taking it seriously, didn't really care, just kind of went honestly because my husband at the time wanted to go and I needed something to do at the time. And then
Hmm.
it kind of became an unhealthy obsession
Hmm.
because I was unhappily married and that's where I could get away from him. I could go to
Mm.
the gym and escape having to be at home with him.
Hmm.
And so I actually lost too much weight
Hmm.
because I was stressed out. I wasn't eating well. And then I was going to the gym more than I needed
Hmm.
to avoid him.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, and I can look back and see pictures of that time and my face looks sunken in, I mean,
Yeah.
and people, I mean, I looked sick and
Yeah.
I had an idea of what number I thought I should be at.
Mm.
Um, and then when I got to that number, I was like, this isn't how I'm supposed to feel when I'm at this number.
Right.
This is the
Oh, that
ideal
is,
number.
wait, can we pause? Because that is
Yeah.
such an important thing you just said. Because I think, I mean, I cannot tell you how many amazing, wonderful, accomplished women in all, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I just need to lose this weight. My thighs just need to look a little bit different. I need to, and it's like, I will feel this way when, and you just said the magic words, right? It's not about that.
No, and that's why I will never seek to find solace in the number again because I had a very low number for me, and I got there and I thought this isn't how I'm supposed to feel when I reach that mark,
Right.
um, and that's when I was too skinny and doing things the wrong way, and so again I had to kind of so well then I by that time I was getting divorced.
Hmm.
I got into another relationship and
Hmm.
then I stopped going to the gym really because I was happy and I didn't want to leave and I wanted to be home and make homemade food and so I gained a bunch of weight back.
Hmm.
um, and and then I kind of stayed that way for like a year or two. I actually had a hysterectomy,
Hmm.
and my body just was hating me at that time. So, but so then after when you can't work out, then you're like, well, now I want to.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
had six
gosh.
to
Yeah,
eight
yeah,
weeks where
yeah.
they're saying, don't do anything, don't leave the
Hmm.
house, don't take the stairs, don't do all these things. And so then I was like, well, now I want to again.
Yeah.
So then that kind of sparked it again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then after that, I kind of picked up going back to the gym to feel better. And
I can resonate with that so much because when I got really sick, and my adrenals were all messed up and I had no energy. My naturopath was like, you have to stop working out for a year. And I was like, what? Because I was looking back like a little bit exercise bulimic and like didn't realize, I was like, no, I have to do this because I'm an actress and I have to, my body's got to look a certain way. I thought I was going to gain 1,000,000 pounds and I didn't at all. And then you realize when you can't do it, how much it makes you feel good. And I remember there was a huge shift for me where up until that point, exercise was something I had to do to look good. And then it changed into something I wanted to do to feel good. And that was such a game changer for me.
yeah, yeah. So when I could do it again and, I felt better and I had the time and then, um, things with work really started getting more stressful. I had a very stressful job at the time and I, I don't drink a lot. I don't use drugs or anything like that. So I really needed an outlet coping mechanism to get rid of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of realized that the working out and the fitness classes really kind of took me out of my head and let me not have to think about the day.
Hmm.
So that's really when I started having a regular schedule again of going back to the gym, because it was like, well, either pay a therapist or go to the gym to talk about how I'm feeling and process things from work.
Hmm.
Um, so then, I just kind of got into a routine and I started making friends at the gym. And that became my accountability, was seeing these
Hmm.
people. It was social time, but also getting to work out. And, I started, making friends with the instructors who were like, hey, you weren't here. What happened? Whatever. So,
Community. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, which I'd never done before. I'd always just gone to the gym and worked out and then don't talk to me, let me be, go back home or whatever. And so then I was staying after and talking to people and trying new classes and trying different things. Because I met this new community at the gym. So that's really kind of, and again, working out it's not been about losing weight so much. It's
Hmm.
feeling stronger.
Yeah.
And that's what I've kind of realized, because you see, I go to the gym and yes, there's people in their crop tops and their, whatever. And I'm like, man, I wish I could be like that. And then I'm like, she's 25. She hasn't had a baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Like,
we have
we
not
are not
lived
the
this
same.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you see other people that, are wear much larger sizes than I do. And they're so strong. I'm like, that's what I want. I want to be strong. I don't
Yes.
need to be skinny. I just want to be strong and I just want to feel good. And so
Yes.
that's the kind of the core group that I surrounded myself with, those people that just wanted to feel better in their skin and feel better at the gym while you're there with your friends and feel strong. And it's not about like, oh, we just gotta, let's watch our macros and this and that and the other. And it's like, let's just come here and have fun and enjoy each other, enjoy the music, enjoy seeing your friends, and feel better when you leave.
Ah, that is exactly right. That is like everything I preach right there. It's like, no, let's have fun. Let's feel good, right? This is not about how we look, because you can't, the joy in experiencing seeing yourself look great is very fleeting. And you'd have to stand in the mirror and stare at yourself forever,
Yeah.
and you'd still find something wrong, because that's how our brains are, right? But when you feel good, you take that with you everywhere. And you affect people differently, and your life changes. And that's exactly what's important. So I love that. So you found me where? Through Instagram?
Um, so listening to other podcasts, people talk
Hmm.
about you. I heard Jesse doing the sugar detox,
Hmm.
I think last fall. And so I
Hmm.
kind of did some research on that and kind of did my own kind of sugar
Hmm.
detox, and started following you on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, this seems interesting. And I'm not woo woo, to use your words. I'm very, science based and
Hmm.
logic
Hmm.
based. And so I was like, well, this is a little interesting, And so I take kind of bits and pieces of what
Hmm.
you did, but I did like the sugar detox. It wasn't easy to do,
Hmm.
but I felt better
Hmm.
afterwards. And
Hmm.
my biggest concern was, how am I going to fuel myself to continue working out on just these few things I can eat? And I'm a picky eater, so,
Hmm.
but on these few things that I can eat, and I felt better. Um, and I had more energy just eating berries rather than protein bars or whatever else.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Okay, you've piqued my interest now. And so then and that was last fall. So then as time went on, I continued followed you, and then I knew that I had kind of some big life changes coming up. My son
Hmm.
was graduating. I had anticipated this big move. And I was like, I know my triggers. I know it's stress. I know it's lack of control. I
Hmm.
know that I need something so I don't spin out of control mentally,
Hmm.
physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything.
Yeah.
Um, so that's when I reached out to you and you had like a promotion of like 50% off or something to do the program. And I was like, I'm in. Um, so I reached out to you to do what is it, spring, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Spring. Yeah. The spring program. And, I can't thank you enough. I guess it worked. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I feel like I watched a significant change, and as per our last conversation, it seemed like you were doing really well. And can you share a little bit, or would you open and share a little bit of your experience? Because when we spoke last, you were just radiating. And you ended the program there. I just feel like you kind of showed up a little bit in your shell, and by the end of it, I felt like you were showing up to these calls and we were like all seeing you in this other light. You're sharing differently, you're smiling, you know what I mean? Like it's so interesting to watch because sometimes it's yes, people lose weight and their skin gets better and they get more clarity around food or they're less inflamed or whatever it is. But the coolest thing is like you often, and this is where it's funny because I was never a woo woo person either. Like this came from my own healing journey. And in the beginning, I was very like Claire and I talk about this sometimes when we do episodes where like I sometimes have a hard time even like I don't like talking about spirituality too much because I think it's a turnoff to a lot of people and would have been very much to me at one point because I also feel like you have to have a foot strongly in science and an understanding of like what it is to be like a real person in the world and not just be like airy fairy crystals and astrology if you want to actually get anything done and heal. But I think there, you know, we have this inner world and outer world and those kind of go back and forth. And it's just interesting because you know, I will sound a little woo. It's almost like an energetic shift you see with people sometimes. And it makes sense though, too, when we all think about we know what it's like to not have energy and we know what it's like to have energy. And I'm watching people have more energy. And then we know what it's like when someone is in a bad mood. Our experience of them, even when they're not talking, is not as great, right? And when someone's happier, our experience of them, even when they're not saying anything, is much different. And my experience of watching you go through this relatively stressful time in your life was by the end of it, it was like you were just showing up glowing and more smiley and happy and excited. And like, I just felt like there was a moment towards maybe like the beginning of the third month where things just seemed to click for you. Do you want to
So
speak a little bit to your experience in general, though?
yeah. So, starting out, I didn't know what to expect. I've never done any type of group anything, like group
Yeah.
therapy or nothing like that. And I was like, I don't know who these women are, and I'm supposed to just tell them my problems. And after the first session, and I remember asking you, I was like, I'm an empath. How am I supposed to deal with feeling all these other people's emotions and hearing their
Yeah.
stories? How do I release this? And so
Yes.
that was, the breath work, just doing the 5 breaths at the end of it. And, to release all that, because I felt it after the
Yeah.
first call, these complete strangers, I was like, I'm absorbing their feelings and what they're
Yeah.
going through. And I can't carry this with me. I've got my
Yeah.
own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so the sugar detox, I will say, was a little daunting because I did it right this time.
Mhm.
But like the biggest things, I would say the biggest thing that came from it is I was taking melatonin to sleep every night, regardless of whatever I had going on. And like my mind, my anxiety, my mind just races. And I've been doing this for years.
Mhm.
And through the detox, I had gotten off of it. I'd
Which is
stopped taking it
amazing.
and I don't need it anymore. And it's been months now and I still don't use it. I mean, sometimes I have to take something, if it's like for the fireworks or whatever I had,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but I
And
don't
that's amazing. And let me put a pin
years.
in that for 1 second,
Yeah.
just because people don't realize melatonin is a really, really good tool for falling asleep, but it doesn't enhance sleep quality and it is a hormone. So when we take it for too long, your body can get the wrong signal, right? And start to produce less of it.
Mhm.
So it's a really good tool sometimes, especially when you travel with jet lag and whatnot, or occasionally at home if you have trouble falling asleep. But it's not something we want to be leaning on all the time because it can cause problems. So the fact that you're able to effortlessly let go of
Yeah.
it and sleep better,
For
and
years. For
sleep is
years.
like the top of the list of the stuff that's healing. So
Yeah.
like that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. For years, I had taken something to help me fall asleep at night. And within 10 days, I had my melatonin hormone levels, normal levels, had come back and I no longer need it. Um, Other kind of physical things, my resting heart rate was way down. Um, I think probably the lowest that it's ever been recorded on my Fitbit. I was still able to work out just as much. Like I didn't have lower energy or anything like that. I felt better. I think I lost like 8 pounds, but of course, I was eating less and tracking things. But no, it was definitely and it really gave me a good idea of how to kind of reset things when I need to,
Yeah.
to get back. And for me, it's a control issue to get
Yeah.
back in control of eating, to know like, oh, I had, a quote unquote bad day, or, things didn't go well over the weekend, or I went crazy over the weekend. And it's like,
Mhm.
let's get your body back to normal. It's not about like, oh, you got to lose those 2 pounds you gained or whatever. It's get your body back to feeling better
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
back to kind of a reset.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that it's a really beautiful tool to have that forever because it's a powerful anti-inflammatory diet. You can eat as much as you want. There's no calorie counting or restricting. It's focused on just really healing foods. And why I think why it's really good to quote unquote like get things back under control is that when we have too much sugar or processed foods or simple carbs, it starts to mess with our hunger and satiety hormones. So then when you start to take those stimulants essentially out of your diet, you get back to your body's natural rhythms and cravings. So all of a sudden it doesn't feel out of control and you don't want cake for breakfast because you've been having so much, over the holidays, it's so easy, right? And you should, right? You should have the cake, you should have the cookies, whatever it is, celebrate. But then it's so hard because sugar is so addictive. You want to keep doing that forever. So it's a beautiful moment to come back to yourself and you really like for me I whenever I do it it's like ooh clarity sleep ooh my skin ooh I just feel better in my clothes and it's not anything other than letting a few simple things go and eating more of something else and I always find that it just makes I feel happier at the end of the 10 days.
Yeah, I hit a bump, about midway and was like, oh, this is rough. And, I was definitely
Yes.
going through withdrawal of some things. And, but you just power through and, you have your friends supporting you and you can report back in like, it's rough, girls, whatever. But, yeah, I made it through and I definitely felt better at the end. And, like I said, physically, I could feel and the numbers on my Fitbit said it was better for me. I think another big thing was before that I couldn't I no longer had like hunger triggers. I just
Mhm.
kind of ate out of, oh, well, I know that I have a meeting in 2 hours or whatever, so I need to eat lunch now, or I've got to go work out, so I need to have this snack. And it was just kind of, I was eating out of like according to the clock and not what my body was telling me, which
Mhm.
also then led to like binging because my body and my mind were just no
Different.
longer, yeah, they no
Not in
longer
sync.
told me what I needed to do or when to stop eating. And the detox helped me remind myself of those hunger triggers and, oh, that's what it feels like when you actually need to eat something, and and not just out of habit because you think you need fuel or whatever, to prepare for whatever the day ahead. So that it really helped me kind of get back in tune with what my body needs, and rather than just what I think it needs.
Yeah, and that is the thing about it that I love the most. I mean, it's good for the gut, it's good for the skin, it's good, it's very healing, but that's the main thing we want because that ability to listen and trust what your body's signals and cravings and cues, your ability to do that not only helps you make better choices in the kitchen, but everywhere else in your life also. Because you start to check in with, ooh, this doesn't feel right, or ooh, I don't know
Mhm.
about this. And that's the thing that is the most important because you're the one who knows what you need in life, whether it's to be healthy and to be happy and to be in the right relationship or the right job. Like you are the expert on that. So like how did you notice that informing your life in any other ways?
I was definitely after that, knowing that I had made progress, I wanted to continue doing that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I am still better about trying not to binge and trying to listen to my body. And it's like, okay, well, I feel like I want to eat this, but what is that really saying to me? Um,
Mm.
and it's like, do I need the chips or could I just have some pistachios? Or,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
is it just, I just need salt or something, or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
so it's trying to, but now, yeah, recognizing that I had done that progress and had treated myself well. It's like, don't go back from that. You deserve to continue treating yourself well. And it shouldn't just be, because you're working in a group or for 10 days, it's, you deserve to feel better and you felt better. So keep treating yourself better.
Hmm. 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 I love that. And I feel like with emotionally, so listening to your body more, having that feeling better in your body, do you have, and this may be too specific of a question, but do you have a recollection of like where you were at the beginning and where you at the end in terms of like physically, mentally, emotionally?
Um, physically, I'm probably around the same weight. I don't think I've
Hmm.
lost any weight or anything.
Hmm.
Um,
Which
and
wasn't the goal for you.
no, no, it was
Yeah.
honestly my goal. And what I think I put this like in my testimonial was that I wanted you to stop me from binging. Fix
Yeah.
that. Turn,
Yeah.
flip the switch, and I don't want to binge anymore.
Yep. Press a button.
Just here's the money. Just do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but and what I got was the realizing why I was doing it,
Yeah.
and recognizing when those were coming up, when those feelings were coming up, and being able to work through that rather than just eating until my stomach hurt, because
Yeah.
that was my hunger trigger was, okay, you need to stop, girl, because you're going to get sick,
Right.
or
Right.
the food's gone. Those are the only ways that I would stop binging, was either I've eaten this entire thing,
Hmm.
or you're making yourself sick.
Yeah.
That
And
my
would you be
body didn't
open to
like.
sharing, like, peripherally why you were realizing you were binging? Like, was it stress? Was it coping, emotional?
It was stress, boredom, a lot,
Hmm.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, and just anxiety and overthinking things, and yeah, but probably just boredom. Is that I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and I'm like, well, I might as well. I went to the grocery store for my teenage son who could eat 1,000 calories at every meal. Um,
Right.
I'm like, oh, well, I got him Oreos. So, and now I can't stop thinking about the Oreos now. So then I need to eat until I feel sick.
And
Um,
Oreos are one of those things that's impossible to stop eating those. Like
yeah, I
that's
can't.
not even
What's
your
the
fault.
suggested
That's not even your
serving? Come
fault.
on now. Yeah.
Right.
Like, so, and yeah, so I would just be bored. And that's what my mind would ruminate on, was like, well, I bought my son that ice cream, and, I can't stop thinking about it, and I'll just have a little, and, treat yourself because you worked out, and so that's, and I would just had my mind would just wander and overthink those kinds of things. And so that's
Hmm.
what I would do, was like, well, it's okay. You don't want to be on a diet. You don't want to, and
Hmm.
that's another thing, is like, well, it's about wellness. So treat yourself. It's okay to have some. And that was the wrong idea to even, but
That is a very funny moment that's going on with culture, right? Because I agree. Like, I don't think anyone should live on diets, and we do, it causes problems. But then there's this other line of thinking where it's like, well, nothing's matter, everything is neutral, and no foods are good or bad, and like you deserve it. And it's like, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to know what makes your body feel good. And yes, of course, there's room for ice cream and tequila and potato chips for sure. Hell yeah. But when did and this is the funny thing, when did treating yourself become like treating yourself like a garbage can? You know what I mean? You know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's
When
like,
did that become a treat? It's
if you
right.
restrict, you're bad. You're on a diet and you don't want to do that to your body. That's bad. And it's like, well, then treat yourself. It's fine, because you don't want that. You don't want to have that, mentality, and you don't want to be, you know, bulimic and,
Right, right, right,
anorexic
right.
if you're doing these
Right.
things. Right.
And it's so funny because there's this whole line of thinking around like, ooh, treat yourself to chocolate or chips or whatever it is, where it's like, well, kind of also maybe treat yourself to a salad sometimes, because maybe you're going to
Right.
feel really good after that. And feeling good is more of a treat. Feeling good long term, in my opinion, is more of a treat than feeling good in the 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes where you're consuming the really nice thing. And then, whatever happens to your blood sugar or your stomach or whatever.
Right.
But it is
Yep.
this funny thing where people are like, well, I deserve a treat. I'm like,
Hmm.
let's think of like treats that actually make you feel good. Like, what about a massage? Or, you know what I mean? Like, not that
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
can't be ice cream sometimes, but if we're doing that all the time, we're treating ourselves to a stomach ache.
Right. I was using the reverse psychology of it to like outsmart the diet system, you know.
Well, so many women, like so many, we talk about this all the time. Like, I feel like I'm always having these conversations where people are like, I deserve it. And I'm like, yeah, but you also just deserve to feel good and like your body and like how you feel all the time. Like, I feel like that's the biggest treat.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, you do deserve something to make you feel better, but does it need to be that ice cream that's going to make, I'm lactose intolerant. Stop it. Why are,
I know, me too. Well, and it's funny too because it's like there's also been this funny shift in culture around like if something makes you feel better and is good for you, then it's not a treat or it's
Mhm.
not, you know what I mean? Then it's like, ooh, and it's like, no, that's maybe even more of a treat.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's just a really funny mindset a lot of people have around like being healthy or eating a certain way. And it's like, at the end of the day, I just want you guys to feel good, like to be have these bodies that you can go do whatever you want in. And speaking of which, I feel like you have a very inspiring trajectory, right? Because I think a lot of women fall into, a story like yours where it's very easy to fall in love young, have kids. And gosh, if I mean, I would say 99.9% of the moms I work with talk about how they did everything. Like, it sounds like you've been a fantastic mom, but a little bit at the cost of you, right? And that's what culture tells us to do. Women are supposed to be quiet. We're supposed to put ourselves in the back. You're supposed to give everything to your kids, right? Supposed to, in quotes. And here you are, we do that, and you come out the other side and you're like, maybe you're not well, or who am I, or what do I enjoy, all of those things. And you did that. You did all of those things perfectly and realized, wait, maybe I'm not totally happy in this situation. And you were brave enough to come out of it. And then here you did successfully raise this amazing son. And you're at this moment where you're kind of getting to start all over, but like as an adult. Can you
Yeah,
share a little bit about that? Because I think that's a really inspiring, and like you're having this fun rebirth, it feels like.
I definitely am. Yeah. So after my marriage, like I said, I had a relationship and it was not great. And then, I tried dating off and on after that. And but just as it got closer to my son, getting through high school and the impending move that I knew I wanted to do, it was like, what am I going to do without him? You know, and it was like he's been my priority, is making sure that his needs are met, and then I'll take care of me next. And so as we were getting closer to the time where I knew that he wasn't going to stay home, I knew he wanted to go away to college, and I love that for him. And but it's like, well, then what do I do? Who am I if I'm not his mom? If I'm not there to make sure that everything is taken care of? And so I kind of was looking ahead to what kind of life do I want to have, what kinds of things do I want to do, and it was like, well, I kind of missed out on a lot of things in my 20s because I was doing that. I didn't get to travel much. I didn't do much, and I'm not an adventurous type person. I'm not a thrill seeker by any means, and I don't have adrenaline rush. I mean, doing this podcast is the adrenaline rush for me. But
Says the woman who now likes to go on motorcycle adventures.
oh yeah. So and I mean, yes, and I used the apps, and I was trying to meet people in this larger city that I lived an hour away from, and it's funny because I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought I wanted someone like me who's very organized and introverted, and let's do educational things and quiet things and be home by 10 o'clock, and it's like, I'm sure that would have been great for me, but then when it came down to it, it's like, that's not really what I wanted. I want more adventure. I want to do things, because even as a child I wasn't adventurous or anything, and so I met this guy online who's into motorcycles and all kinds of crazy things, and it's funny because it's I've had people tell me that it's like, it's not anyone I ever would have saw you with, but it's exactly who you need.
Oh,
And
I love that. And you said something really profound that I really, really agree with. And it's the idea that maybe we don't know what we need. And
yeah,
all of us have these, so often we have these really specific ideas and we hold on to, maybe it's success or partnership or what our body needs to look like, right? And we hold on so tightly to this tiny idea of what we think is right, and we suffer, right?
yeah,
And the thing about the brain is, it's only ever going to come up with stuff we know. And I believe that when you're a little bit more open to the flow of life, life will present you with things more beautiful than you can even imagine. And that's what it sounds like. You were open enough to say yes to this kind of adventurous guy that was completely outside of the box, right?
yeah. And that's the thing, is that if the timing, if he and I had matched each other on this app 6 months before that, it wouldn't have worked. A year before that, it wouldn't have worked, because the start of our relationship required me to be down here in the larger city, to be a part of his, motorcycle group and do these things, motorcycle family, I should say.
Oh, I
And
love that.
it's a family. And, and to do these things and to be away from my child. But if my child were 12, I couldn't have done that. Or
Right,
if my
right.
child didn't have his license, then I couldn't have done that. So it's so funny the way that the timing had to work out, that I had to be free enough.
Mhm.
Um, as a parent, I could still, travel back if I needed to, and, I would, but I could spend the weekend down here and do all these fun things that I've never done and see these bands and ska shows and what. That's not me. I love Celine Dion. Why am I going to punk metal night at this dive bar? Like,
I love that so much. And having the best time, I'm assuming.
and I'm like, I love these people. Like, I'm so scared, but also I love these people. I love this energy, and it's just completely not me, but at the same time, it's exactly what I needed.
Oh,
And, and like I said, if we had tried to make this work 6 months earlier, it wouldn't have worked. And he was patient enough that he knew, okay, well, a year from now, she'll be down here, whatever. But, it was a give and take. And I mean, fortunately, I held out, and we were both patient enough to, yeah, here's the end result, is that now I live 10 minutes from him, and we can just hop on the bike and do these things. And, so yeah, but I went through, believe me, plenty of bad eggs to get here, and did a lot of work on myself in regards to my confidence and my attachment style, and all of those, behavioral science things, to get to this point. And if, like I said, and a year ago, I wasn't in this, 2 years ago, I wasn't in the same place, and it probably wouldn't have worked out.
that is so beautiful. And it goes back to, I remember my first acting teacher in New York would always remind us you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like whenever you get frustrated with where you are in your career or life or anything, you're exactly where you, and that became a mantra of mine, even though sometimes you'd be like, why is it here?
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, and then you have those moments where it's like, whoa, yeah, I am. And like you see the crazy intricacies of life where it's like, if I hadn't done this and you hadn't showed up here,
Hmm.
and it just is this perfect unfolding. That's incredible. Um, so what's next? What are you calling in? Like, where are you right now? Tell us what's exciting.
I mean, honestly, like the biggest thing is just trying to build my life here, is get in my routine, in the new city, and, getting my workouts back in order. And kind of the biggest, regarding my workouts, the biggest thing is that, like, one of my favorite workouts isn't really offered here. And so I have been looking into getting certified myself to bring it here. I mean, there's
Yes.
kind of scattered around, but there's nothing in my last, city. It was huge. Every day there was, classes
Well, yeah,
offered.
tell us a little bit about it.
So the workout is called Pound Fitness. It's
Uh-huh.
also like cardio drumming.
Oh,
Um,
that sounds amazing already.
it's so
Okay.
much fun. It's just, high energy level music, and you're squatting and lunging, and, and it's just such a good stress relief. And I would
Can I
highly,
ask a dumb question? Are
yeah.
there actual drums?
No, it's
Oh, it's like
these like
drumming
weighted,
movement.
well, it's weighted
Oh,
sticks,
oh,
and
it's
then
like
you
split.
squat to hit the ground. Yes. So anybody,
Oh,
you
that's
can YouTube
cool.
it. You can, yeah, there's all kinds of videos on it. You can do workouts at home for it. But I've done it for years, and I really enjoyed it. And then now I get down here, and I'm like, there's only like one day a week that I can even do it. And it's like 20 minutes away. And, so I was like, well, maybe I should just get certified. Cause I've had people tell me, in the past, and, that, like, oh, you're really good at this, and you can tell that you enjoy it. And, so I was like, maybe I will. And, and part of that, which is unlike me, like I said, I used to go to the gym, and I'm like, just get in and get out. Nobody talk to me. And now I'm like, do I really want to, like, bring this to the people? Do I really want to be the center of attention? And I'm like, I kind of do, because I kind of feel like they're missing out. Like, how can you not love this? It's so much fun. Why wouldn't everyone want to do it? Um, so that's I guess the next thing on the horizon for me is to go and seek that out and get certified and try to bring it around and do
I
more.
love it. I love that. And why that's so important. It's like, here is something that you love to, like, I always talk about, movement that brings you joy, right? Like, exercise, anything that you enjoy is going to be better for you. So, like, going to the gym and suffering through it is going to be way different than if you love, like, swimming with your kids. Like, you're going to get more out of that. So, the fact that you found something you really love, and then in getting certified, A, you're an introvert. And you know what I mean? The fact that you're like feeling comfortable and you want to share and be like in the front of the room teaching people, like that just speaks volumes about, how much more comfortable you are in your own skin now, which is something I remember you saying when we caught up like about a month ago. You were like, I'm comfortable in my skin for the first time. And I was like, that alone is unbelievable and something to be so proud of. And the other part of that too is what, like you mentioned with the motorcycle family or the people at the gym, like you'll be cultivating community. And like with the group programs in general, like this goes back to primary foods, right? Where it's like our relationships and having community. One of the biggest things that really helps us stay healthy and happy. And when you build community around something that you love, especially like movement, like there's just such a beautiful way to continue to stay healthy. And this is the other thing I really love about watching people evolve and, see them really flourish in their healing journey is as soon as you get to a place where you feel good, you want to share that goodness in any way that feels specific to you. So here you are being like, this is this thing I love. This is my offering. And I think that's so badass.
I mean, it's definitely not something I would ever have done before, and I don't know. We'll see. And I'm trying. I have all these ideas, and and I'm going to the gym. And I'm like, well, there's a good spot for it, or there's a time slot that this room is free. And so I'm thinking of all of these things, and I don't know. We'll see. But
Oh, you're doing it. There's no we'll see about it. I'm
I
getting
have
an
to
email
now.
in a
Here's
couple
the
of months.
accountability.
Yes. Yeah, we're saying the whole world is waiting to
We're
take
gonna
this
do a
class.
live. And no, I'm just
Yes, we're going to do a live and you're going to teach us how to do it. And I'm going to have my sticks in Portugal. Oh my God, I would absolutely love that. Are you kidding me? Um, yeah. So to wrap things up, we always ask, right? And the beautiful thing also before that I loved about you is like you came in with tools already. Like you had done a lot of work and you knew exactly what you needed and you got it, right? You had a hyper focus on what you needed. We sort of cleaned up got you better understanding what your body specifically needed to be putting in it, right? Through the detox, through, other, I teach in the program. Um, but you had done a lot of work already. And I think the thing I'd like to share about that is like the change comes quickly, right? When you do have tools, right? There was like a little shift that was ended up being quite profound, but it was almost easier than we thought. Cause I feel like I remember at one point where just sort of like let go of,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I watched you have this aha moment of like you were the one that was holding on to this way of like treating yourself, right? Do you remember that moment?
I do. I do.
Can you
That
speak to
I
that a little
was,
bit?
yeah, I was in my own way. I was in my own
Yeah.
head. I was making myself the victim of all
Mhm.
of these things that I thought I was. Um, I, I kind of would, I have like a tote bag that says like, this bag is the only thing holding my shit together, and it's like, but that's not true.
Not
That's
even
really not who
close.
I am.
Not even when you came into the program. Like not you are not that person at all.
No, like I'm very organized and and it's like my job is good, my family is good. And I was, in this I still am in this great relationship, and it's like, why was I thinking that that's who I needed to be or that's who I was? And that's, that was the moment was you were like, that's not who you are. That's who you are making yourself out to be. Get out of your own way, get out of your own head and recognize the accomplishments that you've gotten yourself to. And that was the thing is that I knew, obviously I know what I've been through and I know what I've overcome. And I'm like, but who am I? And it's like, but I'm everything to me. Like
Yes. And
all of
you're
this
an
accomplishment.
inspiration. Who are you? You are an inspiration. No, you are. You absolutely are because so many people aren't willing to be brave and to start over and to leave and to look inward and to do the work. They stay on the pill, right? They stay at the gym. They have the chips and the alcohol and the binging forever because it's too scary to look inside. And you did that. And you continued to do that until you got to. So who are you? You're an inspiration. You're a goddamn inspiration, woman.
I'll take it.
But it was so beautiful. And the thing and the thing about it was like what we talk about timing, right? Like again, you came to me in the perfect moment where like you were ready to hear it. And I mean, I'm a softie, but I can be tough sometimes. And sometimes with people in that moment, I was like, cut the shit. Like,
Yeah.
look at who you are and what you've become. And like, I just felt like we watched you let go of this anchor. And that was almost, and when the shift started, it was like you were kind of bringing around with you what felt like a rainy day. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? There were
Yeah.
clouds that you brought with you everywhere a little bit. And in that moment, I feel like we watched the clouds part and the sun come out. And every time you showed up after that, it was like you were beaming more and more and more. And it was so awesome for me to, because can I tell you how many women, people, I will say something like that to, and they're not ready to hear it, or they are holding on so tightly to their self-concept, to the idea that they're wrong and broken and not good enough and they need to lose that extra 5 pounds, or their thighs need to look different, or whatever it is, they need to have the boyfriend or the 10,000 more dollars, whatever it is. And I will not be happy now. I'm going to hold on so tightly to the suffering. And I was able to offer you this mirror of exactly who you are and what you do accomplish. And you were ready to see it, be like, shit, I am
It's
great.
like,
What am I
dang, you're right,
doing?
girl. Yeah.
I know. And it's just so beautiful because I remember when we spoke last, do you mind me saying your age?
No, go ahead.
I quoted you because I wrote it down. You said at 41, you now love and fully accept yourself. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, you got here. Because I know people who never do. And like, that's a really big deal. And a lot of people think that's true, but I watched you have this experience. And it's just, those are the moments where I'm like, how did I get so lucky to like invent this weird job? Because to get to watch someone who was struggling at their own hand unnecessarily, get to see that and let go of it and watch you really fall in love and really own this inspirational woman that you are. I mean, I'm sorry. I get to have a tiny piece of that and watch it. It's the best movie I've ever seen. Like, it's the most heartwarming thing on the planet. So, you know, thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this journey with you because you are truly inspiring.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you. Like, yeah, I just needed to get out of my way and stop holding on to what I thought I could never get to, but I was already there.
Yes. And it's easier than we think sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what do you think allowed you to get it's just all the work, finally hearing it? Like, what if we could share it with other people, right, who are in your position? Is there a piece of advice in that click that you could give? Or were you just ready?
Um, I mean, I think partially I just needed someone else to tell me that maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's not that I don't have a supportive family that, cheers me on for everything, or,
It's
I love my,
different though when
you
it's a
know,
stranger.
yeah. It's like, oh, you see that? Because you don't know me, Like,
Right,
of course they're
right.
going to cheer me on for everything. But yeah, like, I think I just needed someone else to say, hey, wake up. Like, you're doing what you thought you needed to do. Like, you're already there. Just open the door. And yeah, I think I just needed someone to kind of metaphorically shake me and say, wake
Yeah.
up, because this is your reality. Those things that, look through your list of where you want to see your life, and you're in it.
Yes. And I just want to say for everyone listening, like, you are so much closer than you think you are. And you are probably your biggest enemy, which is exciting because you have the power to step out of the way. So yes, I will revisit our favorite final question.
Yeah.
Um, when life hands you a pile of shit, lemons, whatever we want to call it, and it's unfortunate, how do you love through it? How do you shift? How do you come out of that frustration or pain and choose love or choose the higher road or choose whatever you need to do to get back up and start all over again?
I think a big thing that I learned from you is the breathing, meditation. I never did that before joining your group. But now I try to do it, at least a couple times a week, if not more. I even do workouts that have meditations in them now. So, but I think it's just, for me, it's getting back to myself and recognizing how far I've come, looking at where I am physically and emotionally. This is where I wanted to be. A year ago, this is what I had in mind. I had in mind my son being graduated and, moving and, becoming an adult and doing good things in life. That's what I wanted 18 years ago, was for my son to be on his own and independent and wanting to inspire the world. And that's where I am. And I wanted to be, I've always wanted a healthy and good relationship, and whether I thought that was my marriage, but where I am right now is where I wanted to be. And, yeah, I have bodily imperfections, but
You are a human
it's
after
been
all.
through a lot. My body's been through a lot. And,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
still work on it, and I'll still keep going to the gym and, finding new muscles. Sometimes I'm like, oh, look at that. But it is a matter of taking a step back for me and recognizing how far I've come, that putting aside this imposter syndrome at work, and, recognizing I did put in the work to get to where I am and I do belong here. And, some days aren't, just this week, it's been, stressful, and, um,
Oh, and
but
that makes me want to ask a quick question. Because you sort of have a mentally, like an emotionally taxing job sometimes, do you have any tips or can you share how you sort of, as an empathetic, sensitive person, how you deal with that?
um, so I've always been really good about compartmentalizing.
Hmm.
And, at the end of the day, I know that I did the best that I could do, that I did everything I could for those
Hmm.
children, for that family. I gave it all during that time, and then I walk away from it. Yeah, I would, and kind of what started with my addiction to melatonin and needing things to help me sleep was like the paperwork and the, oh, I forgot to make this phone call or whatever. But at the end of the day, I knew that I had served the families well, and I
Hmm.
had done my job well. And so I was able to shut it off. I mean, yeah, certain things would stick with you, bad things that you would see. But because I had given all that I could during the day, during my allotted hours,
Hmm.
um, and I served that family well, I knew that I could walk away that day and I can pick it back up tomorrow. But it was compartmentalizing. It was being able to put down your phone,
Hmm.
walk away, and then find something that I could mentally escape, whether it was reading or working out or, watching my son at soccer practice or whatever. But it was having my own life outside of work,
Yeah.
um, and and doing what I needed to do to escape kind of the stress and the emotional toll that it took.
Yeah, well, it sounds like what you're saying is you have really good boundaries, right? Work stays at work, and when you go home, you leave there and you trust that you did the best you could instead of ruminate or beating yourself up. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a really, really important lesson for all of us because I think that there's so many perfectionists out there, right? Where it's like, I could have done more, I should have done more. And you're like, nope, I showed up, I did the best I could, and like I did everything I could, and it stays there until tomorrow. That's so beautiful. And I
And it
also
helped.
just, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I said, and it helps that I loved my job. I loved being
Yeah,
there. I loved doing the work.
yeah.
And so if I wasn't inspired and felt good about the work that I was doing, I wouldn't have felt that accomplished. I wouldn't have been so motivated to get things done and to serve these families well, if I didn't love it and I didn't believe in the work that I was actually able to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's important. And that goes back to, again, like the whole balanced primary foods things where it's like having a career or purpose that you really enjoy. You can, it adds value, it adds energy, it's not as draining. And even when it's hard, it's not quite as difficult because you're there for a reason, right? You're
Mhm.
enjoying it. And I just, before we close out, want to touch on something you said right before this, which was this is the life you wanted a year ago. This is exactly what you envisioned. How does it feel to be living your dream?
It's weird because, like, I'm very proud of everything that I have. I still have moments of, like, financial insecurity or whatever, and it's
Hmm.
like, but you're
Hmm.
fine, you know,
Hmm.
or like, is my son really going to be okay? And it's like, you've done all that you can,
Yeah.
so I just have to step back and say, like, you did the work to get here, and enjoy the moment, enjoy all the work that you put in, the sacrifices that you made to get here. Because yeah, this literally is where I wanted to be. And it's it's surreal, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it's like, you did it.
I
I had the
love it.
goal in mind, I had the idea, and and I did it. I put in the work, um, and here we are to enjoy it now.
Congratulations. And yes, I want to encourage you. And this is something that happens to a lot of us, right? Where it's like you get there and then you freak out and then we try to find problems. And what you're telling me is like, you're like, no, I'm not allowing that. I'm just going to allow this to be my new baseline of like where my life is and how great it is. And we're just going to keep going in that direction. And Yeah, I couldn't be more happy for you. I'm so, so glad that you graced my program with your presence and were such a light and such an inspiration. And thank you so much for sharing your story because I think that there's so many aspects of it that are incredibly relatable. And I think that when women and men, right, are in the throes of these challenging moments, it feels like impossible to get out or impossible to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you not only saw it, you're living in that light now. So congratulations, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and good luck. I cannot wait to hear or see videos of you teaching this drumming class.
I mean, I've got to make it happen now. So,
Yeah, you absolutely do. You absolutely do. Thank you so much.
all right, thank you.